Welcome to our podcast called Babe Talk. I am Zainab.
And I'm Madiha.
We are the co founders of the Babe Movement. In this podcast, we will talk about our ups and downs, our shared experiences of in the world of startup and business in general. In this podcast, we will also talk about our shared experiences and viewpoints of women just like us. So, Madiha, our first episode. Yay! Whee! How do you feel about it?
I think it's been something we've been sitting on for a very, very long time. We've been
Yes.
planning this, I think, for months, years.
No, years.
Years.
We started talking about it in 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
And then I think it was always put in the back burner because of
Yeah.
whatever life was happening. And now I'm so glad we finally
Got
managed
around
to
to do
launch
it.
this as a
Yeah.
podcast. Finally,
Yeah.
it's finally here.
I think
I'm
some
so
things are
glad.
just meant to happen. They kind of like, they just naturally happen. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can be planning for months and months, and there's something that gets in the way, or just life happens, and then you put it at the back burner. And as you said,
Yeah, 100%. So, Madhya, I think for those that are not aware of the BAVE movement as a company, as a community, so if you can tell us in your words, what is BAVE movement?
I think I've had this question asked so many times, and initially, for the first few years, we have been stumbling in what it needs to be. I think it was so organic when it started. It was
Yeah.
just this idea of bringing people together on a table, just catching coffee, and just talking about your dreams and hopes of a startup. Everybody has an idea, and just getting it out there, getting it
Yeah.
out of our hearts and minds, and just speaking it out loud. And I feel like when people do that, brings it brings a sense of reality to it. Happened so organically, right? I mean, we did those vision board workshops, and we did so many
Yeah.
workshops initially, and I always had trouble explaining what it is. I think essentially, if I have to put it now, it's a community. It's a community of some brilliant minds, brilliant women who come together, trying to help each other out, trying to support each other,
Yeah.
and just everybody on their, different stages of life and business and startups in general, who just want to come together and take their dreams forward.
I agree. And I think I remember the first time you had pitched this idea to me. And I think where the core of the idea was to find your purpose.
Yeah.
And I think we both were at a phase in our life where we kind of wanted to, different phases, different stages in our life. Like you were married with a child. I was in my corporate job for like a number of years and everything felt a bit stagnant. I think we
Yeah.
both were at a point where life felt stagnant. And we were trying to think about like if you're trying to find our purpose, there are other women who want to find their purpose as well.
What do we do about
What do
that?
we do about it? How do we help someone like that?
I think it also started with just helping ourselves first. I mean,
Yes.
beyond, just trying to help beyond the community was a bit different.
Yeah.
Happened much later, but for us, it was just trying to get like-minded people together who can just sit
Exactly.
down and discuss. And I think one thing rolled
The
into
other.
another.
And I still remember the way we were even trying to find out finalize the name called Babe Movement. It was
Yeah.
on sticky notes on our
On a-
mom's bedroom mirror,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
kept on sticking everything on that mirror.
Yeah.
And we had like a list of names, like a
Yeah.
tribe movement or some tribe talk or I don't
And
know
that's a
what other
very
names that you
tricky
had.
name.
It was, and then we landed on Babe, and I think you had given me this short list, and you was like, "Do you want to select?" And I selected the Babe
And
at
I
the
was like,
time.
this
And
is going to be very, very
tricky to
tricky. It might be
yes.
controversial.
Not only controversial, you can get sidelined by being just like, oh, you're just all feminist or whatever,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
wasn't the point. It was like the point of the babe movement was everyone can be a babe, and that's what
Yeah.
I
What does-
related with. Okay,
yeah.
everyone is a babe. Every woman is a babe, like and babe can be abbreviated of a lot of meanings that it has.
Yeah. I mean, it talks about power, confidence,
Yes.
especially self-assurance. I
Yes.
think all these things define a babe.
And I think at that time, so we started in 2019, and it's been 5 years now.
Yeah.
And I think at that time when we started, the boss lady movement was quite on the rise.
Yeah. The hustle.
The hustle culture, the grinding, and they like make sure that you're a go getter and you're getting your dreams, and that was the energy that we had because
think
we
that
were
was-
so like
That was the right energy to
Yes,
have at the
at
time.
the time, and like we were so like not frustrated in a way, we were so like in our, there was
No.
so much of pent up energy in us, like we were just wanting to do something with our lives at the time, and it was the perfect
Yeah.
moment. I think it was a perfect storm for us to do something.
It was the right time. There weren't that many business communities for women.
Give us a bit about your background, professional background, and your personally as well.
Yeah. So basically, I come from a branding background. I'm a professional by profession. I'm a brand strategist. My education was in marketing and business. So I think for me, my passion has always been around business and marketing.
Yeah.
And when I landed my, my job at one of the top agencies in Dubai, that was my thing. That was my dream job. And I think I
Yeah.
had the best mentors and the best people at the time who, who gave me the experiences, the connections to be the bigger one of some of the big. I've worked with some of the biggest brands in the UAE.
Can you tell a bit of which brands have you worked with?
So I had the experience to work with, the likes of EMA, DP World, Dubai Holdings, Mubadala, Emirates Airlines, to some of the bigger names that you see around.
Yeah.
And I was very blessed to have those experiences very early on. And that's something that obviously was part of my passion. But obviously, as life goes on, I got married and I had a beautiful son. And then motherhood kind of took over and all those
Yeah.
dreams were put
And you were
aside.
always like, you always had that, I think we call that a bug, a business bug in you
Oh,
for the
yes.
longest
Oh,
time.
yes. I think it goes back
And
to our family.
yeah, so for those that don't know, we are both our sisters. We don't look anything alike, but we are. And completely opposite in personalities as well, but I think that's what complements us also at the same time. So the business bug is definitely there. We come from a business family, a business community actually, and it runs, and we've seen it all our life. Like every woman in our family has done something or the other. Like they do. I think that was our foundation
Yeah. I think
at
it
home.
didn't
Was
happen in many families, but we were.
one of the few families in our from where we are from that women are encouraged to have their own businesses or to follow their passions.
And it was
Whether
just a
it's a
normal thing.
job,
Yeah.
whether it's their own business, their side hustle, they're very encouraged and they're very empowered to do that. So I think that was a bit of a stepping stone, and thanks to our families, like it was always encouraged.
They had a creative lot.
Yes,
And
and they
they
had a very creative. They're super creative,
Yeah,
actually.
and that kind of encourages all of us to, kind
Yeah,
of put ourselves out there and take whatever we have, the
yeah,
creative energy. Let's just take it out. Let's put it out
exactly.
there and see what.
I don't know anyone who's not doing something in that
Yeah,
family.
that's
Although, like,
insane.
and we come from Pakistan, so it's not the most progressive societies, but in our family, we've
It was very
noticed
different.
it's so different that we have to give them a shout out that everyone does something so brilliantly and does
And
something
they're really good at it.
very good at it, and they do something out of the box,
Yeah,
and they do it fearlessly,
yeah.
and they do it with a sense of like not even one thing, they might be doing two three things at the same time.
And they shaped the
So I
next
don't know how they do
generation
it.
in a very beautiful way. They were
Amazing.
examples that I think the next generation, the whole
Yeah.
cousin lot, and the children, and then the ones who came after, kind of carry on that legacy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely
100%.
that was something that I was super passionate about. I always wanted to do something on my own, but I think I never had the opportunity. And then when I was very, very low at the time because I wanted to do something, and with having a son and being a full time mother, it always you have those sense of regret. Like I had a great career. I
Yeah.
was very happy doing what I was doing at the time. But then you have a sense of loss, and you're kind of lost in that process because your only identity, you
Becomes
only
a mother.
exactly, you only identify as a
And all the
mother.
focus comes on the child. I think
Yes.
even for us, like as your family, like I remember when you used to come and visit us, like you visit us once a week,
Yeah.
and the entire focus was on Mikhail and
Yeah.
no one else.
Yeah.
And I felt like you were a bit sidelined.
It was beautiful in its own way. But the thing is, for me, I always had been a very ambitious kid. I had big
Yeah.
dreams. And when that kind of, I mean, motherhood's beautiful, but I feel like it reduces down to just one thing. And soon enough, that child will grow up and he will no longer need you
Yeah.
24/7. They will go to school and
Yeah.
you have all this time. And I tried my hand at socializing and the parties and the kitties and the whatnot.
Yeah.
It's just not my thing. I do love meeting people,
Yeah.
but I think there was more and
I think your
beyond
fulfillment
that.
was not being met. Your
Yes,
personal
yes.
fulfillment, your life fulfillment was not being
Yeah, I
met.
mean, I had fun meeting people, but I'd come back home and I'd be
Yeah.
like, that was not a very productive day.
Yeah.
What did
Yeah,
I achieve?
definitely. Like, how much can you talk about over someone's clothes or some party or some event or
That's
some
it.
movie? Like,
Yeah,
there's only X amount of
that's not
times you can talk
productive.
about. Yeah, yeah, it's not productive at all and doesn't serve you in the long run if that's all that you have to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So you need to have some purpose
And
with
I
your
think
life in order to do that.
at the time, I would say that I felt very lost, and I think sometimes life plays its own ways and its own games. And as I said, I was meeting a lot of people. So I
Yeah.
had a group of friends who said, you know what, let's just get together and play badminton. And I was at a badminton match, and I met this lady who said, you know what, I just got my certification for life coaching. And I at the time didn't know what life coaching is. And she explained it to me. She said, like, well, it feels like your there are wires in your brains that are all jumbled up, and you feel like, you need a sense of clarity. And I'm like, that's exactly how I feel all the time. I need to come and visit you. And I did. And I think
Yeah.
that was one of the biggest steps I've taken. And I give a complete shout out to Humaira Naseem, who has been my life coach.
Yeah.
I
100%.
think she sorted me out with, she gave me the clarity, she gave me the motivation and
Yeah.
the push that I needed at the time.
Yeah.
And I think it was that one first stepping stone.
I think we all saw that change in you. And I
Yeah.
think
But I was learning things on the
that's what I'm
side.
saying. That what I noticed as someone
Yeah.
who was watching you, not that closely, but somewhat, as I like to do,
Stalker mode.
stock mode. You started taking more initiatives after I think you were trying to sort yourself out through life coaching and
Yeah.
basically
I wanted to
NLP practicing.
learn. I felt like I
Yeah,
was not learning. Like what
yeah,
happens is you can go to parties, you can do all these things, and that's great. I mean, that's great part.
yeah,
But what are you investing in yourself?
hundred
Where
percent.
is the education? Where is the growth? I mean, when I left my job, that was a massive period of growth, and that's great. But then, post beyond that, right? I had new experiences, but yes, your child grows up and you're kind of stagnant. And what happens beyond that? Where is the education I took up? So I did, I went to multiple workshops. I went to, I took a ton of online courses when, especially in COVID, we had all this time. I did everything from like video editing, video production to copywriting to how to
Wow.
build online courses, how to set up a website, how to do SEOs. Like I did all the way through. I mean, I'm not using half of the stuff, but it's
You
good
at least
information.
know what to do and
Yeah,
how to do it.
yeah,
That's always helpful.
yeah. And I think that I keep encouraging people, like, need to keep learning whatever on whatever level
Yeah,
that is.
you
One
need to do.
should always keep learning.
100%. 100%. All
Yeah.
right.
But you need to tell us about your journey as well. Like, what
Yeah.
did you do and how did you get?
Yeah,
How did that start for
100%.
you?
And I think I'm on the flip side of the coin. So I'm not like for those that I can be relatable for those that are not married and don't have kids. So I'm an HR professional. I have worked in the HR field for the last, I think, 13 to 15 years now.
Yeah.
I started my career in banking as an HR professional. Then I moved into an education industry. Then I moved into an automotive industry. And now I'm in a specialized HR role.
Yeah.
So that's my entire journey
Through and through
professionally,
corporate.
through and through corporate
Yeah.
and through HR at the same time. And I've been blessed with working around different areas of HR and going through different phases. And I've moved roles after every 2 years, and I've noticed that's a trend with me. I think the longest role I've ever done at a stretch was 3 years, and that was because it was such an interesting role that I had to be in
Sit
that for
around.
3 years, and I really saw the change that I was making there. So being in a strict, like a complete corporate environment through and through with corporate standards and practices, and you kind of have to fit into a box, and you can't do things outside the box, especially
Yeah.
industries like banking and corporate industries. You can't do a lot outside the box. So the creative aspect of my life that I had was very limited, and I had a marketing concentration in my bachelor's degree. I did business admin because we were coming out of the recession at the time of 2008 when I was graduating, and I still wanted to not risk my degree in marketing at the time to complete specialization. So I said I'll do a concentration, not a specialization in marketing, and I love marketing
Yeah.
at that time. And what happened was, obviously the job market was so scarce. You had to take up whatever you can get, and luckily I got a job at a very good bank, and it was in learning and development. And I thought, oh, amazing, learning and development is my field, and it's something at least a little bit relatable to a
Yeah.
marketing personality. And hence I started off, and then there was no looking back. I loved HR.
Yeah.
And from there onwards, like, I kept on growing and obviously had a career progression, but then I kind of felt a bit stagnant because I was working up until 2019. I was in the role for, I think, around 9 years, and it became the same
Boring.
thing. 9 to 5, come back
Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
then maybe you're not so motivated to work out and blah blah. And you did feel at the time life is not moving fast enough, or life is not moving much ahead, and
I
it
think
was
we
just
were
life.
discussing how boring everything is.
Yeah, everything is
I'm just
boring,
bored.
everything felt very stagnant,
Yeah.
and like, something situations happen in your life and the life doesn't move as you want it, but it is moving in the direction that it has to move, so you have to kind of accept it. And what happened then was, you came up to me and you said that, Zainab, let's do something, let's work
I
something
told you
out.
about Homera, that this is
Yes,
what I've
and
been
then
feeling.
yes, and I also went to Humera, and I think I was with Humera for about 8 months that I worked with her. And it was transformational in terms of how my mindset had also improved on how I process my emotions and how I process things in life in general. So that was a really good working on myself part of things. But at the same time, we were also working on our business idea, the
Yeah.
wave movement. And I remembered the brainstorming and the work that we had done
Yeah.
was on a random day you came up with the idea, and
Let's
then the
do it,
next
Jen. Let's do
day,
it.
the next week, it was bunch of post-its with a bunch of names and a bunch of core purpose that we
Yeah.
wanted to do. And I remembered that from that discussion we started the trademark, not trademark I would say, but the star of our company's workshop that we started was
Yeah.
with the vision boarding
Became a
workshop that do.
signature.
So yes, sorry, that was a signature that
Yeah.
we had. It was a signature workshop, and it was the vision boarding exercise that we developed. So it's just not a vision board that cut
Yeah.
pictures and post it on a board. Our vision boarding exercise had a methodology to it, and it was a two-part activity.
I think it was driven to scratch out beyond just a few pictures that and
Exactly.
how you imagine your life to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
The difference was that most vision boards will, kind of tell you, help you manifest the life you want.
Exactly. Yeah.
We dived deeper and we said, okay, why are you putting the
Right.
pictures that you have in there? And
Yeah.
what
And
does
it's
it mean?
just not the pictures, it's like what do you do after the picture. So the great thing about that workshop was, and is actually, it's you you imagine, you ideate, you put it on a piece of paper, you put it on a physical
Bored.
board, and then you also come up with a plan, which we have mind mapping, which is our signature exercise for this
Yeah.
activity, and then we move on from it, and then that basically gives you an action plan of what to do. And that was, I felt like,
That's
that
the
was
differentiating point.
that made an anchor
Yeah.
to our company called Wave Movement. We started off in this journey together 5 years ago, was to find our purpose and to find something of ourselves. And I
Yeah.
felt when I was doing this with you throughout that time, it felt like, a breath of fresh air of utilizing my creative side, and
Yeah.
just to make sure that I feel that there's a purpose apart from just the 9 to 5 that I was doing. Although that was fulfilling as well,
Becomes
but
very monotonous.
it becomes monotonous. Although the job was not so monotonous, but the routine became very monotonous,
Yeah.
and the creative side that I do have in myself was not getting
Fulfilled.
explored or fulfilled, and I didn't feel very happy at the time.
Yeah.
And I was going through things as well. And as society is, you have to manage yourself in that process. So I guess that's in a nutshell of, or bigger nutshell of how things are. But I would like to move ahead with the conversation, to you, Madiha, is if you can talk about, and you both can discuss and tell everyone what has been our 5 year journey. So we started exactly in
Whoa.
2019.
Yes, we're gonna be
March
touching
2019, March, April 2019 is when we had our first
Yeah.
workshop.
I think we've just crossed our 5 year mark.
Yes, and we started our Instagram page,
Yes.
and you had registered the company with DD.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
that
shortly after,
is,
I think after
yeah. We,
three
but
to
I
four
think, yeah.
months.
So I think in May we're gonna be celebrating that, like
Yeah,
officially being a company.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So that's quite exciting, actually. By the time this episode comes out, it'll be in May, I guess.
yeah.
Okay, amazing. So now let's just talk about how was the first year actually? Let's just in a nutshell, how did it go?
I think it's been a roller coaster ride. I
Is
think it's
it?
been a complete roller coaster ride because there are a lot of things that happened.
Yeah.
I think also because it was so organic, we never went jumping in. We didn't know what we're getting into. And I mean, it was just in the moment, right? It was this fun
Yeah.
thing that we are doing together. Let's just go ahead. And we found so many interesting people to kind of join on
Like
that journey.
imagine the first 3 months, if I can just go back
Yeah.
and just bullet it down. The first 3 months, we were doing the sessions for free.
Yeah.
We had barely two people that could come in. We invited five, two people showed up. Then we did a session for free,
We were
and
doing
we did
these
multiple
sessions.
sessions for no money of our like no money being asked. Like
We were doing
everything was
two sessions a week.
two sessions in a week, and no, I think sometimes it was even three sessions because on weekdays you used to do the session, and weekends I used to come in and help you out.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
And we started off with workshops primarily, and then we started moving towards business consultations, and then we started moving towards um, I think some other specialized workshop, technical workshop that we were doing
So
as well.
I think it was very demand based.
Yeah,
When we initially started with the vision boarding workshops, we had very few people who came in, and
they were actually our supporters that were
they
our
were the fact that
and
they came in
yeah,
and they kind
it
of
was
joined, and
very
there was such an unknown process. I mean, we were kind of testing it out
yeah,
ourselves. We were testing our workshops, like
exactly.
the format itself, and sometimes these workshops went on because we were testing them out. They would go on for like
Days,
days. They
days.
spread over like 2 days or 3 days. But the great part was we were testing it. We were seeing the
Yeah.
what works, what doesn't, and kind of
And then it shortened it up to 3 hours.
two to
From
three
2 days
hours, two
to
days to
3 hours.
2 to 3 hours, which was a
Yeah.
practical set
Doable.
of
It's a
workshop.
doable,
Yeah.
and it requires that much time actually to
and
finish that workshop
and
in
the
that
fact
time.
that we went on and we kept doing it, we
Yeah.
didn't stop. It was not giving us the money, but it was giving us the level of pleasure and the fun and the
And I
creativity
think
that
the
we
instant
wanted.
gratification as well, because as soon as someone would finish the workshop, we would instantly see and hear a feedback that, oh, this was so helpful. I feel so happy, and I finally
You feel
figured it
connected.
out. I figured my life out, and
Yeah,
that was
gives you clarity.
yeah. And
It feel,
I was always so pumped up after the session was
I want to
over.
do the next one now.
Like, oh my gosh, like, we made a change in someone's life.
Schedule the next one now.
When is the next one coming up? And but I think we had our learning lessons through that time. And I'll just move to, so that was like what our first 3 to 6 months looked like. And then when we started gaining traction, we were doing so many workshops, we were on a roll.
We were doing different kind of workshops, so it was no
Yeah.
longer just the vision boarding
It was
workshop.
technical workshop. We did product photography with we did started doing
Social
social media
media,
marketing workshops. We started doing customer segmentation workshops
brands,
and branding
brand
brand
strategy.
strategy.
We did a lot of different
Yeah,
workshops.
quite a bit, and everything came with the demand that was there in the market at the time. And then
We did quite a few, and then the next step happened when we were doing a bunch of workshops. We were gaining a lot of traction.
Yes.
People were getting to know about
Exactly.
us. That here's a group, here's a bunch of girls who are, setting up workshops. So if I'm a business owner, I must attend at least one of them. And
Yes.
then COVID happened.
And then COVID happened. 2020 happened, and a lot of things happened just before COVID as well. So I got another opportunity to start work, and it was quite a senior role, and it was a very demanding role that I could anticipate that was coming in.
Just
And
right before COVID.
just right before COVID. So I got the opportunity in December, and and we were at our peak at the time, and we were supposed to launch like a lot of other workshops. We had a smaller
going.
version of our podcast called Babe Talk, which is still on our Instagram page if anyone wants to hear it with
It's on
very
YouTube as well.
and on YouTube with very bad sound. So we didn't publicize it much, but
Yeah.
it was
The
very
early days of podcasting. So.
early days of podcasting. So this is like technically not our first podcast venture, but definitely a bit more professional, refined, proper version of what we actually wanted to do at the time. And imagine we also started this in way early. So I think
Okay, but
we were ahead in time in a lot of ways. So now coming back to what had happened was I found another opportunity, and the job was quite demanding. and I had given you the news that I don't think I will be very actively participating in the business.
Just when we were about to take
Yes,
it to the next level.
yes, and you felt quite away, and I still tried my best being there,
But it
but
was not
I
possible.
and I remember you telling me like, are you even there 20%? And I felt so overwhelmed, and at that time I remember, I don't know if you know this, I was in the car at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
deep in Sharjah traffic, and I had to be at work at 7:30,
Yeah.
and the traffic wasn't moving at all, and I'm having to have this conversation with you in the car while you're talking to me, and I'm trying to reach to work, and I have a full day ahead, and I was not leaving office before 9 p.m.
Yeah.
during those days as well,
Yeah.
even those early days. And then the pandemic hit,
And then
the business shut down, so I
Yeah.
abandoned you. The pandemic had hit. Left Madi
fun
all
days.
alone. Fun days.
But I think it was I
Yeah.
think they're all like blessings in disguise. Because if
100%.
that had not happened,
Yeah.
then we would have not pivoted. So as a company that did workshops and a community that was based on a community where we would have regular meetups, regular workshops,
Yeah.
is very in person, and there was a beauty in that. But as a company who had to deal with pandemic, we obviously had to take everything virtual, make it online,
Yeah.
and we're trying to figure that stuff out. How do you do vision boards online? And we did a couple, and it was all
You
right.
did with Abu Dhabi Library.
Yes.
So
So
that
we
was
were hired
something.
by Abu Dhabi Library
Yes. And you
and
did
Abu
quite a
Dhabi
few.
Culture and Tourism
Yes.
to do a virtual workshop with them.
Yes.
And it's such a tricky process because how do you take something that is so physical and turn that into an active, engaged
Yeah.
virtual audience? Like how do you
I
take that
could.
out?
I was actually trying to figure it out. Like, how would you even do it online?
Yeah.
And but I didn't have the time to think too much because I
You
was.
had your own shit
I
going
had,
on.
I had too much shit to worry about. I was thinking.
Yeah, you had your own boat to float.
Imagine being HR in pandemic was not fun at
Yeah,
all. It was so
yeah.
bad. But then, yeah, you took the ship and you took the reins in,
No, I think it.
and you kept the
I
business
wouldn't
afloat.
say it was a complete switch because I think it happened again very organically. I think we were just
Yeah.
riding the boat as it went and wherever
Yeah.
it went. And we understood workshops are not working out. We tried building a community online, but I think people were in a very different phase of mind. Nobody was ready to go. I mean, it was barely like it was all about survival at the time.
And I think I remember telling you, I think at that time, maybe in the car itself, when you were sending me a message at 6 a.m. that Zainab, where the hell are you in this business? And I think I think maybe I had this conversation at that time, or maybe shortly afterwards. I told you, like, Madiha, you are a brand strategist at the end of the day. You are a marketing, you're a branding specialist.
Yeah.
So maybe this is
Take
the
it then.
opportunity to build your portfolio
We
up.
started
And
getting inquiries.
yes.
I mean, these were
and there were inquiries coming in, but I think that was for you to stop focusing on the workshop so much and start working on your portfolio,
I think
and
what
it gives you the space to do that.
that there was a process there. I think what happened then was we were doing workshops, and that was leading people into. They were so excited through the workshop,
Yeah.
and there was such a realization in those vision boarding workshops that my life is in a different trajectory.
Yeah.
I need to start following my dreams and passions, and I need to start moving things in the right direction. So
Yeah.
people who did attend the workshops actually made changes in their lives. They went from like a corporate
100%.
job to actually having a startup. And
Yeah.
there are several examples of that. And we worked hand in hand, and that's what I like about the Babe movement, that we're part of that journey from the start to finish, right?
Who were, like, let's tell someone of who were our biggest successors.
Name names.
Name names. I think it'll be nice to name names. I think, and they're quite vocal about us as well. So we can
Yes.
definitely name names, I
So
guess.
through those workshops we had, I think for me the biggest name that pops out is Garine. Garine from Gratifying Wellness was, she was from the startup,
She was
as
one
in-
of our big. She attended the first bigger workshops that we had
Yes.
held.
Yeah.
So
She was part of that.
Yeah.
And I think she had a moment of realization that turned into a business venture.
Yeah.
She went out and
She
again
was
she
working
put
in
the
a
work
corporate
in.
job, and then she left that job and she started working. She opened up her own business, and then
That,
after
that's
that.
only after 2 years of training.
Yeah.
She took up courses. She took up diplomas. She did the training. She put in the work while she was holding on to a corporate job. And from there
Yeah.
on, obviously, set up her own business. and we helped her through the business development and as part of the branding itself, and so we were part of that journey, and that's what I like about the Babe movement, that it's a
Yeah.
partnership. It's literally from the day it starts till
Yeah.
the first client, I hope.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Definitely.
Garine is a big one. There's
I think
Naila.
so. Naila for me is one of the biggest attendees of our workshop. I feel like in terms of the achievements that she
There's
has
some
achieved,
amazing others.
it and it all started. Imagine I think she attended one of our last workshops in 2019.
If you look at her vision board, it
So
says, I mean, that's from 2019, 2018,
so
2019,
2019
2019. Her vision board
November,
said,
want to
I
climb
want to
K2.
climb K2.
Yeah.
And she did climb K2. She
She
climbed
climbed up
Everest.
to no, not only so she's yes, so she's climbed K2, she's climbed Everest, she's climbed Broad
Yeah.
Peaks. So she's covered all the
That's
highest 8,000 peaks in Pakistan and almost all of them around the world. She's only left with three more mountains to climb. So and she's won the national award. So she's won Tamga Imtiaz in Pakistan. So she's one of the bigger names that I felt I had gotten a result out of the workshop. And then we have Hiba Kadir, who is an influencer, Dubai-based
yeah.
influencer,
She's also the owner
and
of, founder of Bharosa.
yeah, founder of Bharosa. She attended our workshop, and
Then there's
Arfa,
Arfa,
Arfa Shahid, she works for Roya
Roya PR
and
agency.
PR agency, and then
There is
Hafsa Kadir, who had joined us as well, and
she's got a beautiful story.
she has amazing stories. So she is the founder of I Am Inclusive,
Yes.
and
So there were some amazing stories around that.
yes,
And
and many
from
other smaller stories where people
Yes.
found their purpose and they ended up doing like opening their own blog or like starting their own
So
page,
there was a
starting
lot
their
of
small
traction
startups.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
There was a
100%.
lot of traction there. I want to pull the conversation to again, like once that
Yeah.
happened in COVID, and how do you take things from there? I think we
Yeah.
started moving and kind of pivoting towards offering services,
Yeah.
offering branding services, marketing,
Yeah.
website. I think I had at one point tried to play around with a blog. That's how I learned how to do website design. And once I had the request for that, just roll up your sleeves and figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We did that for our first client, and one thing led to another. And today, 5 years later, I'm happy to announce that we have launched the B Studio, which is our branding and digital agency. We do
That's your
everything.
complete baby.
Yeah, that is a complete baby. And
Yeah.
it's such an interesting pivot and journey because in the last 4 years, if anybody asks what have we been doing,
Yeah.
well, it's all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
We do everything under, everything branding has to offer, from strategy, naming, design. We do website design. We do e-commerce websites, website
Yeah.
design and development, e-commerce. We do social media, content development, online courses development. We do email marketing chains. So like the
Yeah.
whole
So now
shebang.
the Bave movement has separated from branding. So now branding is being done by the B Studio
Branding and digital is done by the B Studio.
B Studio and the Bave movement does
It's purely a community.
purely a community that focuses on networking. It focuses on workshops, and it would focus on
Yeah, so it's a community.
community
It's
based,
a workshop. We have workshops and mentoring. So there's networking, mentoring, and workshops. Right.
yeah.
So I think it's been a beautiful journey, but it's been a long one, and there
Yeah.
have been ups and downs. There have been days of
So you can talk about what were the downs when you were going to, apart from like, yes, losing a partner at the time, but then what was the down for you?
I mean,
What was the
there were dull days where I would say that we weren't
what
doing
were the
much.
darkest days?
The darkest days were, I think I would count as sometime last year, because I was really pushing for the B Studio to be out. I've been, it's
Yeah.
been something in the pipeline for about 2.5 years where we just wanted it out because
Yeah.
people were getting confused. We're talking about a community and we're talking about branding at the same time. So we
And
knew that
everything was confusing. Messaging was completely confused.
yes,
and
and
then
then-
sometimes if people asked what you were doing, you're like,
okay,
we are doing quite a few things, but can't list it properly down. Yeah.
I mean, my closest friends didn't know what I was doing. They're
Yeah.
like, what is the Babe movement? Explain. And I would give them like a 20-minute lecture, right?
Yeah.
So we knew very clearly this had to be a separate identity, but just
Yeah.
the setting things up, and we wanted to scale naturally.
Yeah.
We were in a place where we had the demand for it. We were trying to scale. We were obviously looking for better customers. Had better clients, and within that, we knew we had to build a team. And as we were building a team, like for me, it was like explosive growth. I wanted an explosive growth, like get the whole office in, get a team in. I want the
The dream
best,
team.
the dream team. So yes, we were looking for people, and we hired about 5 staff members, all within a space of a month.
Yeah. That
And
explains a lot after what
exactly.
happens.
So we did 5 hires within the space of a month, and obviously we were trying to cut costs, and
Yeah.
so obviously, knowing how it is, we were looking for quality as well, but they needed to figure out how to work within our markets, within a certain team. The dynamics needed to be figured out, and here I was stretched, thin, because I was trying to set things up at the same time, also build a brand and a business and take it online, but also manage a team, train the team, look for customers, because now we have all these expenses and things are, blowing out of proportion. So obviously I need to bring the business in to pay for these expenses.
Yeah.
And it just became this whirlwind kind of cycle that it was just drowning. And to a point, I think
Yeah.
we sat down and we said, you know what, we have to cut it all loose.
Yeah.
We have to cut it all up, finish it off, and just stop. We cut loose all our team members. We completed all our projects, handed them over. And I mean, to a point, like, there was so much stuff
Yeah.
happening. And then I had health issues come in as well. So
Yeah, there's a lot happening with
there
you
was
at the
those
time.
personal things, health related
Yeah.
issues that came up. And then work was just drowning. And I think
How did you, and I'm sure like that with all that stress comes in, a lot of emotions. Anxiety comes in.
I had massive anxiety.
You did.
I did.
Yeah.
I had major meltdowns. I had meltdowns. I think I was struggling throughout the
Yeah.
day. I was struggling from one day to the other. My emotions were all over the place. I think at one
Yeah.
time I told you, Zainab, just don't bring any problems to my plate.
I remember.
I think I will crack.
And
I
you're
will
the sort
crack.
of person, at least at home, is someone who listens
Yeah.
to everyone.
I wanna
And you're
provide
the eldest,
solutions.
and you're the eldest in the family
Yeah.
as well. So it comes down to a lot of like your
My
inbuilt.
mom would give me a call after everything.
Yeah.
This has just happened. Figure it out.
I had to have a conversation with mom and tell her like stop calling her. She's already stressed out. You don't need to call her for like something really small and just stress her for no reason. And she had to like
There
really
are no potatoes in the house. What am I supposed to do? Just
I know,
stop calling.
no, I had to have a talk with him. I'm like, listen, I think you need to stop. You can't call her for every
We ran
small
out
thing.
of food. That's not my problem. Please sort it out.
Yeah,
Stop.
yeah, and it's like very small things, and I'm like, call me, it's
she'll
okay.
figure it
I'm like, call me, it's okay. I will listen to you anyways.
Therefore, all the people to call.
I'm there in the house. I'm here for you. But I think she was so like used to
Dependent,
having you.
Yeah, she was dependent on
And
doing that.
yeah, and it comes out of love as well,
Yeah.
of how much
And I'm
respect
okay
that
with
she
that.
has for you. And it was just so funny to try to tell them like, guys,
Can't deal
you
with
need
it.
to stop it.
And then I had obviously
Yeah.
when things were going out of proportion, obviously the clients were getting affected as well.
Yeah.
And
I think
being-
that was the hardest part.
That is the
isn't
hardest.
it?
I mean,
like, how do
things
you
were-
face a client when
Yes.
they're so angry and they're so pissed off and everything is going wrong, and you're like,
and then
I don't want to pick up the phone that is ringing right there. That's like the worst part.
that was the worst. And because I mean, we love every single person who comes on board. Where there is an emotional connection there. There is
Yeah.
absolutely, I must say, every single client we've had an
Yeah.
amazing relationship with them, and that is something that we really, really honor. And we do want to give them that special, that special attention.
Yeah.
That we are lucky enough to have them on board.
Yeah. And it shows in their interaction with you. Like I've noticed with the clients and you, and they really have that warm space in their heart for
Yeah.
you, and they really connect well, that they stay on with you for that long, and they still are
Exactly.
with
They
you.
are still there.
They're still
And
there with you. They
for
come
years
back
and
to you.
years.
Yeah, for years and years, they do come back
So-
to you for inquiries and, for solutions. And I think that solution base that you provide them, that is the key, which might not even be a service that you offer, but you still pick up the
Yes.
phone and answer their solutions, and you brainstorm
figure
with
that
them.
out. Yeah, let's figure
you
it out. Let's-
brainstorm with them. And not a lot of people do that for no charge.
And I had
And,
like some
yeah.
people tell me like, you get me, you understand what I want. And that's
Yeah.
only because we listen, we put
Yeah.
ourselves in their shoes and just,
Yeah.
it's not about just selling the product.
It's a lot of
getting them there.
empathy and a lot of relatability that you have for them, that, I was there once.
There's a passion to get them there.
Yeah. And I want them to come and find their purpose as I have found mine.
And I think that's kind of honing back to
Yeah.
the BAME movement, because that's essentially what we do on a
Yeah.
regular basis. We want to push businesses to be there out there, right? So that kind of like is that culture that we have in the
Yeah.
Bay Studio. But that was a tough time because, we had screaming clients because things were not working out. And I
Yeah.
think I had to cut off the the source of the problem that was obviously not the source of the problem. I think somewhere I had realized I had to take things on my own hands and do
Yeah.
things on my own.
And just to because I got a bit involved in that
Yeah.
from an admin point of view at the time, just to help you out, and I remembered things were a bit chaotic at the time.
Oh, it
You
was
needed an
all
extra set of hands to help you out, just to streamline everything. And I think the best decision at that time that you had made was
stop.
stop, put a
Yeah.
pin on it, stop
You need to
everything,
take a break.
take a break, tell people, okay, we are closing the shop for the time being. We're
Yeah.
going to reassess ourselves,
Yeah.
and we're going to figure this out completely.
Yeah.
Not
From
fresh, but we're going to figure it out completely
Yeah.
new.
Yeah. We had to stop. So we obviously had to sadly cut loose the team.
Yeah.
We had to stop taking projects, and the ones
Yeah.
that were already in, that's something that I want because we
Yeah, you were
had
trying to
upset
finish them.
clients.
Yeah.
So it was obviously we didn't want them to be upset from us. So I personally wanted to take that on.
Yeah.
So I
And you did it by yourself.
I did it by myself.
Yeah.
A lot of that went, was completed by me.
Yeah.
And then essentially, you know what, I had to take a break.
Yeah.
Like,
Which
I
was
want
really good for you that you had
I
done.
had
And I was quite, it was a learning point for me that it was okay to take a break.
it is because you need to.
A lot of
you
people
need to
don't
give
do that. They
attention.
feel that guilt that, oh, I cannot take a break, like how can I, like it's then
important.
you know what, it's not even the sense of like financial loss, it's a sense of failure that they feel that, oh, I cannot take a break because
course, that's
I
a
will
big-
be proven to be a failure, which I don't want to prove myself to be a failure in any capacity.
I mean,
And it's just a talk in your head, it's not even anyone
you
else
need
telling you
to
that.
accept failure when it happens. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no running away from it. You can tell, like it's written on the walls.
Yeah.
It's flat. And if you're not going to say it, somebody else will go shout it out.
Yeah.
It has happened, and you need to accept, and you need to take a step back and see, okay, there was chaos for months. What led me there? Where did I go wrong? What were the steps that I took that caused all of this?
That is so important.
And I had to give priority to my mental health, take a step back because I could not function like that. I couldn't find solutions for myself, let alone other
remember, yeah.
people. And I took a break. I went on a vacation, and then I stopped working. And I took, obviously, it takes a toll on your family as well. So I needed to, connect back with them, and just with my free time, figure out what I need to do. What are my steps forward?
And I think another thing that you did, you kind of mentioned it earlier as well, you kind of created a boundary, healthy boundary.
Oh yeah,
Like even as us, as your family, I did see you creating a healthy boundary with us. Like, not every time are you a person that can be
Available.
called in and available for a stressful situation, or to hear something stressful, or to hear something which might be like, problem or whatever, to have a solution for. You
Yeah.
need a break as well. So sometimes when you created that healthy boundary, I could see you getting better.
Yeah.
And I could see you being a bit more relaxed and not be in a state of stress
yeah.
that you were a
And I
bit
think you
before.
need to reach out to people. So I spoke to my husband as well, and I told him, like, you know what? I know you're going through. He was going through his own, whatever it might be, and I told him, like, I need you to manage things on your own.
Yeah.
Because I can't deal with it, and that's what I told you guys as well. Like,
Yeah.
I need to put a barrier around myself
In
and
fact,
protect me.
we had a conversation at home to how to be there for you more, to take you out.
But that's what I didn't see. Now I didn't want that.
No, I
Yeah.
know, but I'm saying, like, on when we saw you
Yeah.
like that as a family, what we thought was not like, oh my gosh, like, why is she not connecting us? We were actually very concerned, and
Yeah.
then what we tried to do, and it was on you whether you wanted it
Yeah.
that or not, and it was completely fine. Where we try to do is, like, we used to have these conversations. Oh, let's take her out. Let's
just-
distract her.
yeah, let's just talk about
let's
random
just take her out for
things.
ice cream. Let's distract her out. And I
Yeah.
think the way the family as a unit had thought about that
Yeah,
situation, which
that
was
was
very
great.
positive, that they didn't like kind of villainize you for having a healthy boundary for
And
that
that's
matter.
important to have, and I think communication plays a massive role in that. And as I said, like, you guys, like, all I wanted was, I come in and let's not talk about anything stressful, right?
Yeah.
Let's just talk about random things. Let's talk about where we're going to eat next and
Yeah.
whatnot. Just random conversations. And the same thing happened with my husband as well. I told him, like, let's not get into the stressful stuff. He said, right, okay, I'm not going to let that
Because it's going to
come
be
reach
there.
you.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be there, like
There's always gonna be stress.
over discussing it doesn't help either.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, okay, let me deal with my own issues and my own stresses, and I'll manage that. And I want you to be okay.
Yeah,
Just relax.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
think that helps because that gave me enough time to heal and deal with my failure. I think dealing with failure
Yeah,
and coming up front with it, and I'm okay talking about it. And I talked about
and
it
still
earlier as well.
planning to go back to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I knew like the
100%.
next steps had to be slow. They had to be slow. They had to be steady. And
And I remember you did the couple of months after that.
yeah,
When you got back, you did it on your own. Then you started hiring a team slowly,
slower. It's
slower,
more managed. It's
more
more trained.
evaluated, and evaluated your hires, the
Yes.
quality of hires that you had.
And I think give them time. It's only honestly
Yeah,
the kind of, or you need to build a culture. You need to give them time to grow and train and be
yeah,
part of a system. It
yeah,
doesn't have, we didn't even have a system when we were hiring.
yeah,
Obviously
100%.
things were derailing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't blame the people who were on board. I blame the fact that we just did it really quickly and very early without establishing things.
Yeah, I think that the system part of it was clearly a gap that we had.
Yeah.
And I think
I
couple
started
of
building the system after that.
yes,
Took the time out. I'm like, I need to start
yeah,
building a system first.
100%. And I think the learning lessons were, if I can summarize, was the the speed of hiring,
Yeah.
the type of hiring, the quality of hiring, and the quality of the workflow and the processes that you had in place at the time, and the effective management of your clients. If you can list down for the problems that you had faced in that situation that you had last year.
So I think it comes down to not having systems. There were no systems put in place, right? Sometimes we need, as a business, to establish automations and places where
Yeah.
we can cut down on the work. And there needs to be a process. You
Yeah.
need to have a clear process and a system placed on that. So that makes your life easier. It makes easier for other people when they come on board to just follow that system
Yeah.
instead of me teaching them, every small detail. If there are things in place set up,
Yeah.
they can just take that on and roll with it. And I think that was massively missing because I was all over the place and I expected new hires to come and set it up for me.
Which
That
doesn't
was
happen at all. You have to dig in your heels and do it yourself at
because
one
otherwise
point.
when they do it, I'm not happy with it. And I go
Yeah.
back like, no, 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 let's scratch it all off and then let's do it all over again.
Yeah.
So I was basically doing their job and my job, and it was all over the place. And it obviously is a bit discouraging for the person who's
And you were
hired.
trying to train them at the same time as well.
Yes, and it was a lot of things that happened. That's why it became so chaotic, because there was a lot of things that were rolled into one.
Yeah.
There was a lot of training happening there as well. And obviously, I think the hiring could have, in many ways, been better. But coming back to the fact that obviously I take ownership for most of these things that I
Yeah.
think could have been better. The training should have been there right at the beginning, and I can't expect somebody who coming into the company to build those systems for me when
Yeah.
they were essentially never there. There's no baseline for it. So, I had to roll up my sleeves and kind of do it with them.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing two people's job of managing them and doing the same work at the same time. So it was chaos. And I think if I now that I'm doing it again, and I want to talk about failures because most people don't talk about failures and the kind of impact it has
Yeah.
on you
Definitely.
and your mental health and the business itself. So obviously we lost a lot of money. That naturally will happen. And then the impact that it has on your confidence and your mental health and just going out there
Yeah.
again
It
and
takes
doing
it
it all over.
takes it takes a lot of guts and strength to come back once you had a hit on
I was not
on
ready to
yourself.
give up.
Yeah, but that
not
was
ready.
really good.
I was not ready to give up. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this sucked.
It
And
was
I'm
a
battered.
setback.
It is. It's a setback. And
setback.
we need to kind of learn from this. I think the biggest thing you can do with failures is, what they say. Failures will teach you something. Success, not as much.
Yeah.
So you need to learn, take a step back and say, right, I messed up here. I'm not going to do that ever again. What can I fix to make sure the next part is a success?
Yeah.
I knew I had to take it slower. I need to build a system. I need to build my sales strategy in place that I don't spend hours chasing customers and finding them and finding new clients. It's all set up for me.
Yeah.
So everything needs to be more and more automated.
So you're saying what didn't work out was bad hiring.
It was
So bad hiring,
Part of it was
attempting
bad
to,
hiring, part of it is obviously not having systems in place,
yeah.
and then not having the time to
And
train them.
by bad hiring, I don't mean people that are bad at their job.
Incompetent, yeah.
No, we don't mean that. It was just that they were not the fit for the job,
They were not fit
and
for
they
the
were
job.
not given enough time to be even trained
Yeah.
and be given a chance to be trained and to perform well. There was everything was cut so short,
Yeah.
and then
Sometimes that's the problem that happens with scaling.
yeah,
And we take scaling, and most of us think like all you need to do is just put money in and
yeah.
it's all good to go. You can't fire 5 rockets together.
No,
It's
you have to
somehow,
take it step by step, and
it
I
has
think
to
that was.
happen.
And then also at the same time, you were also struggling to find new clients,
Yeah.
so you had that on your head.
There are
Plus
too many
managing,
things.
there were so many things
Yeah.
together.
And I think now the way is we take on quality clients. We take
Yeah.
on the best that are out there that we can connect with, we can resonate with. Obviously, you have to find quality work that we can put out there. We found better hires. We found, we have the time to train them. We have the kind of bring them on board and become part of
Yeah.
the bigger team
Yeah.
and just making sure once they're trained well, you can pass on responsibilities and make sure that they run with it. And I don't have to be on their head all the time.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, for me, a huge learning curve that I've just recently learned. This is how you do it. But that's part of business and that's part of scaling. And I think that's the stuff because we keep comparing ourselves to others and how
Yeah.
other agencies were running it. They were on
Everyone's journeys is different.
their journey is
Their
different.
capacity is different. Their
Experiences are different.
capital investment is different. Everything from end to end, it's a different. Their priorities are different.
Yeah.
They're in different phases in life where they have more time or they don't have enough time,
Or
and
they've
it all
had better
depends.
experiences.
100%. Yeah.
So I think for me, I was kind of I was not in competition, but I would have wanted to be like the other agencies
Yeah.
that were self-sufficient running, and I think one of the things that I figured out later on was I see these CEOs in these videos, right? Like it's so you're by the pool running your business.
Yeah.
It's that chill life that people
And
started
it's never
talking.
like this.
It's never like this. You don't have time to sit by the pool.
You
Let's-
have a hair in a bun which is not washed for days, and then you're just like trying
in
to
your
make
track pants and your night suits, and you've just gotten up, you grabbed yourself a coffee, and you're on your laptop for the next 9, 8, 10 hours.
and you don't move, and then there's a dent in the sofa from where you've sat.
So this false pretense that we live by, and
The
we see
glamour
on
is a
social-
dent on your sofa that you
Yeah.
created for sitting there for 9 hours.
Yes, that is the reality. You as a business owner need
Yeah.
to be all in. You will be spending
Yeah.
9 to 10 hours of your time in front of that laptop trying to figure stuff out.
I'm making a dent.
Yes, it is not that fancy life. So you see people on social media, people
Yeah.
walking into a jet
Yeah.
because, well, she decided to run her business.
Digital nomad.
They're digital nomads,
Don't know how to do it.
boss CEOs running in.
Yeah. And some people do that. It is
They're lucky
doable.
enough to do it.
They do it, and they have something different going on. It might not be the
But nobody's
same.
talking about the backstory. Nobody's
Yeah.
talking about the failure. Nobody's talking about how she got there and where.
How did the hustle actually start?
Yes.
Yeah.
The
100%.
reality of it is kind of missing.
Yeah.
You're only seeing the glamour part of it. So I think I've since my experience have been talking about those failures upright
Yeah.
and
No,
full
definitely.
on
And
because I think there's a learning that's there that most people can kind of benefit from.
yeah, I completely get that, and I'm so glad like we're over that bridge. The water's over that bridge.
Yes, if somebody wants to learn, I am there for you.
Yes, 100%.
Right. So in the last 2 years, Zainab, I
Yeah.
know we've only been talking about my part of the journey, but what about you?
I think the beginning was amazing for me, where 2019 I was completely there and involved and doing all these workshops. In 2020 when I left, and it was not a happy choice by any means. It was a lot out of responsibility, a lot out of an obligation that I had to fulfill, and it felt like an obligation not in the sense financially, but obligation to the career that I had worked for. That I be giving it up, and it was such a scale to give up. And I think a lot of people don't talk about the fact that what you have to give up to go completely into your business or try
Yeah,
to handle it at
not
the same time, where
yeah.
people can relate, those that have a full-time job and are trying to make a side hustle work. And where
It's
I
not
had,
that easy.
it's not that easy. And when a very good opportunity comes your way with a very good company, you kind of have to make that hard choice that
You're set.
you're set, and then you have to make a hard choice that I'm getting more and a more.
It's a stable job.
Yes, it's a stable job.
It's
Not
paying
only
you
a
well.
stable job, it's stable job pays you well, but it also has a career progression. If you're
Yes.
still in the same job and you're working with what you're doing, with your side hustle, you're not gonna get any other progress apart from that. And that side hustle is still new.
Yeah.
It hasn't
Yeah.
had enough
Yeah.
time for you to leave your job and come.
Yeah.
And I remember I had that conversation with you when we started in 2019 that should I
Yeah.
leave now and come and do
It's a
it full
huge
time?
risk.
And you told me, don't do that right now.
Yeah.
Focus on your career, do what you have to do, and I'm there and we can do this together on
Later.
the
Huh.
side. And I was lucky enough that when I had left at the time and I told you I can't do it, you were there to take the reins on. And
Yeah.
I did feel really bad that I had to do that. And it was my baby as well.
Yeah.
Like, I contributed to it. I was
Yeah.
part of the entire business in 2019, and I had to leave it for 2 years, 2.5 years almost. Almost, I think I came back in end of 2023. That
Yeah.
I had to leave it completely up to you, and majority of
Yeah.
it was you running the
There's a
show,
lot happening there.
and you had to do a lot of it alone.
Yeah.
So I felt bad, and I tried to be there as much as I can as a support,
Yeah.
but I was never necessarily there full time, and I did not
It's
take
very
the.
hard. If you
Yeah.
will come back from work at 6, how do you put your energy into
And I wasn't
something?
even coming back by 6 at the time. So those
Yeah.
2 years that I had were quite traumatic for me career wise, where I was working till 9 p.m., 10 p.m. at night, and I was going to work at 7:30, and I had to wake up at 6 to
Yeah.
beat the traffic. And in the days of pandemic, I was working till 2 a.m. and up until 4 a.m. in the morning. And it was madness. Like, and it was not the job that was mad, it was just the situation that was
Yeah.
mad. And
A lot
now
of
my
people
life
can
is
relate.
not like that. Now I have a very proper hours, I have a proper timings, and I have everything is a bit more
Everything's calmed down.
stabilized.
Yeah.
Everything is more calmer. So this is the right time to, come back and see what is there and, how to contribute. But it wasn't the easiest decision to make, and it wasn't
Yeah.
easy to see what you love to let go and then have the luxury to come back, which I did, and I'm very grateful for that. And for
But it's always
those,
a hard thing that you start off
yeah,
and it's kind of run by another person.
yes, it's run by
You
another
may agree
person.
with it or you may not
But
agree
you
with a
have
lot
to
of decisions.
but you have to come in acceptance of one thing, that
Yeah.
person who has put in more time does get a more say.
Yeah.
You have to have a personality that doesn't. So for an advice for two people working together, you have to come to a level of compromise, and you have to come to a level where you listen to your partner as well.
Yeah.
Your partner is extremely important for the growth of the business, and you have to keep your ego
Yeah.
aside, and you have to look at the benefit and the bigger picture of the company.
Yeah. What
So the company
how
comes
does it
first,
yeah.
your ego comes second.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned, where we both are very strong headed in our own ways. We both, and we are
Yeah.
not similar at all
Yeah.
in any
Yeah.
capacity.
We think very differently.
We are different in every way possible as
Yeah.
sisters and as people as well. Like,
Yeah.
we can't put together that we are sisters at any point in time. But when it comes to knowing and respecting the other person and looking at that person has the better interest for the company of what you're suggesting, you have to take a step back.
Yeah.
And you have to give that person a level of respect that they had worked more years than you had. They have more heart in the company,
And I think it was
and their opinions
important
matter
that
a bit more.
yeah, and I think it was important that you were okay with it, because if I was just worrying about how you would feel, and
Yeah.
and I knew how you were feeling, but at any step of time, if I was just kind of stuck because it would make Zainab feel a certain way, and I had to change my decisions, then I think we couldn't have progressed,
No, we couldn't
because I
have it
was
all.
doing the things that needed to push this forward.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about me being at the forefront, but it was more about
And I always knew you always had the best interest of the company. It was never about you. It was more about what you wanted to do
Yeah.
with the company and through the company for the people.
yeah. I think it was about that's the thing, right? It's all about the impact.
Yeah. It's
The
about
impact
not
it's
you, it's
making-
about others.
Yes, it's not the impact on our own lives. It
Yeah.
was more about
We don't matter. Our egos and ourselves don't matter as much as what we are trying to give to our clients and our community, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
These
100%.
are because the impact it has is changed and is giving so much more support to an audience who wants to hear these stories, who wants the kind of support that we are providing them. So I think
Yeah.
that for us is the biggest validation that we need
Yeah.
to keep going.
100%. 100%.
All right.
All
then
right.
This has been,
This has been amazing.
yeah, 5 years in.
5 years
one
in.
podcast in.
One podcast in and few more to go.
Yeah.
And and this is the season that we are starting it with. So I'm really glad. I hope
We have some
this
amazing stories coming up.
amazing stories coming up.
Some
Great,
brilliant women.
great women to look at and hear their stories. Be very inspired, and we have amazing topics in our next episode that we are
Yeah.
going to be working on, and we're going to be bringing up to you. So
So
keep watching us and be engaged and
follow,
be
subscribe, and share with
share.
your friends and family.